I got my hands on a weapon from every age of human history, each one the deadliest of its era. But how were they made, and what makes them so devastating? Today I'm going to put them to the ultimate test. First, we have to start with the longest era in human history and my personal favorite, the Stone Age. The Stone Age started 3.3 million years ago when our Australopithecine ancestors first fractured stones to create sharp tools. Over the next 3 million years, humans very slowly made slightly better and better stone tools. First, heavy cores were used for cutting, but these gradually became more refined by 1.8 million years ago. Later, we learned to use flakes taken off of cores as tools, selecting specific shapes to use as spearheads and cutting tools. By the time our species appeared in Africa, stone tools started to get even smaller. The flakes could be used by hand or glued and tied onto spears to be used as weapons. Stone-tipped spears were extremely deadly, but with one simple method, we became the most dominant predator on the planet. By using another stick as a lever, suddenly we could throw stone-tipped spears twice as fast and 3 times the distance. This kept us at a safe distance from dangerous animals, but also allows for devastating penetration into vital organs. This technology likely propelled our ancestors out of Africa and eventually into every continent. Mammoth remains with stone and bone spear points embedded in them prove that the spear thrower was capable of taking down even the largest animals of the Ice Age. Some cultures like the Aztecs and Australian Aboriginals used these weapons in warfare in the past few centuries. Accounts claim that it could pass entirely through a human body, leaving a perforation sufficient to admit a common-sized hand. But it's time to see if this weapon really lives up to the hype. Down there we have an organ block, used to simulate organs of an animal or human with 99% accuracy.
So let's see just how deadly the ocelot really was. Oh my gosh, I punched a hole in my tarp. That thing is literally made out of Kevlar and this just punched a hole clean through it. All right, let's try it again. Oh, perfect. You can see that shot scored a decent hit, but it missed the organs. We got about, 5 or 6 inches of penetration, and if that hit your organ, you would definitely be dead, but we missed, so we have to throw it again. See if we can pull it out. Wow, that's quite the head right there. You'd be in some serious trouble. Another great shot right here, but we just missed the organ. We're so close. But man, that's about 7 inches of penetration right there. Super deadly. Oh! Look at that, wow. Penetrated straight through that organ, creating a huge wound channel. You can see that it even penetrated right to the end. I can almost touch it, meaning that this throw penetrated almost 12 inches of ballistics gel. That would be deadly compared to a modern pistol. And now let's remove it from the target. Oh my gosh, oh yuck. These weapons were absolutely deadly.
I can see why the Aztecs and the Aboriginal Australians were still using these weapons in the past few centuries. Due to the mass and length of the spears, they carry an incredible amount of momentum to the target. This weapon was deadly, but the discovery of metallurgy would truly transform the world. Now we're moving to the Copper Age, the most underappreciated age in human history. Copper was the first metal used by our species. That's because in nature it can be found in its pure elemental form, ready to be used for tools with just a little pounding. The earliest evidence of copper working comes from the Near East, where a few small beads have been found. But the evidence is much more impressive in the Americas. Around the Great Lakes region starting 9,500 years ago, Native Americans started to mine copper out of solid bedrock. We know this from lake sediment cores, which preserve direct evidence of sustained copper mining for thousands of years. With hot and cold forging, they turned this pure copper into every tool you could imagine. Huge axes, spear points, ocelot points, fishing hooks, and even blades so long that by Bronze Age standards were swords. This is a recreation I made of an actual artifact found in Ontario. Though copper was never fully smelted here, it did not need to be. It was already pure, and with hot and cold forging, these people were able to create any shape they wanted. Over in Eurasia, they didn't have a lot of pure copper, but they had plenty of ore which needed to be mined, processed, smelted, and cast into a tool. This was a costly and time-consuming process, which at first only the wealthiest could afford. Copper smelting started around 7,000 years ago in the Balkans and slowly spread from there. The 5,300-year-old Ötzi the Iceman had mostly stone tools, while his axe was made of copper. That's why this era is called the Chalcolithic, because it was a mix of copper and stone tools. During the Copper Age, stone points probably killed the most people, but the deadliest weapon of the age was the copper halberd. Around Europe, large thick copper blades were casted. Some were used as daggers, and others were hafted horizontally to create a truly diabolical weapon. This thing looks like it could do some serious damage. Now it is time to test it out in this ballistics gel skull.
All right, here we go. Oh, God. That was absolutely brutal. Just look at that. It cut a hole right into his skull. I don't think you're surviving that. This weapon is absolutely brutal, but let's try it again. Oh. Ah! It's safe to say that the weapons of the Copper Age were absolutely brutal. And some people have this misconception that copper is super weak, but check this out. I mean, it went straight through the skull multiple times, penetrated right through the wood, and literally it's not bent or scratched in any way. Look at that. You can see why the halberd was the deadliest weapon of the Copper Age. But a quick word about how I'm actually filming this video. Meet the Anti-Gravity A1, the world's first 360-degree drone. It literally captures everything, which is perfect for my weapons testing videos because I never have to worry about missing the perfect shot. You literally just fly it near what you want to film and you will get everything and more. But since it's a drone, you can capture shots you could never even imagine with a regular camera. That's how I got this sweet outlawed footage as well as these shots. In post-production, it's super easy to process the footage and change the angle with keyframes. What also blew my mind is the immersive flying experience of this drone. When you fly it with the headset and the controller, you can literally look anywhere. It honestly feels like you're a bird, and after a while you forget you're even flying a drone. I'm definitely bringing this to the mountains and archaeological sites in the future. I can imagine using this drone as a tool to document sites, teach about archaeology, and even find lost sites from the sky.
It really is the perfect scouting tool, able to capture every angle of a site then be studied later.
And check this out, the arms fold inward so you can bring this thing anywhere. Seriously, this thing weighs less than my phone. And Anti-Gravity's having its biggest sale of the year right now. You can get the Anti-Gravity A1 for 25% off using my code right here. And the first 10 orders using this code will get a free flight battery worth over $100. Don't miss out on this limited time offer and the perfect drone for beginners, really. Alright, let's get back to the video.
While you can make deadly close-range weapons out of stone, metal is just so much more durable and can be made into brutal shapes. This made it excellent for close-range weapons. But metallurgists would soon make a discovery that would kick off one of the most incredible periods in human history. Around 5,000 years ago, metallurgists in Eurasia independently discovered that copper ores with higher levels of arsenic produced much harder and easier to cast metal. Eventually, it was discovered that adding a little bit of tin could produce even stronger metal, which we know today as bronze, ushering in the Bronze Age. A mere 10% tin mixed into copper is enough to double its hardness and drop its melting point by 200 degrees. This makes it way easier to work with, and the resulting tool is 4 times harder, about as hard as mild steel when work hardened. This was discovered independently in other regions, including South America 3,500 years ago. Bronze weapons, while expensive, were the deadliest of their time for over 2,000 years. It allowed weaponsmiths to actually make durable swords for the first time in history. And for our deadliest weapon, arrowheads. While not nearly as flashy as a bronze sword or halberd, they did most of the killing in the Bronze Age. Bronze arrowheads are much denser than stone arrowheads, which transfers more energy to the target. Armor during this time was fairly primitive. Most soldiers could only afford linen or leather armor, with wealthier individuals being clad in bronze. But I believe that bronze arrows could penetrate through bronze armor, so we will put this to the test. The arrows themselves are based off a design used by the Scythians, deadly horse archers that ruled the Eurasian steppe. They were often cast with hooks which made removal impossible, meaning almost certain death. They were so effective that this design was adopted across the Mediterranean world. Now let's test these deadly points against ballistics gel.
Now it's time to test out the Bronze Age arrows. This is actually a Ojibwe bow, but it's gonna work pretty good because it's about 60 pounds in draw weight. Oh. 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 Not only does this look extremely painful, but look at this. It penetrated all the way next to the spine, meaning this probably would have cut right through your jugular and killed you. Let's see if we can get it out. Oh. Wow, I pulled it out actually pretty easily. But in real life, that hook would have caught on all of your tissue and been an absolute nightmare to remove. Let's do another shot. Oh. That right there would also be fatal. You can see that the arrow penetrated straight into his temple, into his brain. Yeah, you're not surviving that. Now let's do a close range shot to simulate a more powerful bow. Oh. Another devastating shot, proving that Bronze Age arrows could penetrate straight into your skull. Oh. Oh. The vast majority of Bronze Age warriors had no protection to their face and little protection to their head, making a bow with bronze arrows effectively the sniper rifle of the time.
Next, let's test the bronze arrow against a ballistics gel organ block.
Well, that definitely had some good penetration. Undoubtedly would have been a fatal shot. Look at that, it's even hooked onto some flesh. Now I have a sheet of bronze, so let's see if the arrow can penetrate through the bronze and into the organ block. Let's see if the armor from the period could really protect you from a Bronze Age arrow. Oh! Oh, there we go. Boom! Well, it's safe to say that Bronze Age armor wouldn't necessarily protect you against Bronze Age arrows. And I know this doesn't look very thick, but this is the average width of Bronze Age armor. And though these shots might not have been immediately fatal, those little hooks would have made them almost impossible to remove and probably lead to infection.
Bronze arrowheads were one of the most feared weapons of the age. They could penetrate almost any armor of the period, and their brutal design meant almost certain death from infection. But the beautiful blades of the Bronze Age would soon disappear with a revolutionary discovery. Following the Bronze Age collapse, most communities no longer had a steady flow of tin to create bronze weapons, so they turned to a technology that had mostly been used for trinkets for the wealthy: iron. Iron smelting started in Anatolia around 3,200 years ago, but another region beat them by well over 1,000 years. The oldest evidence of iron smelting in the world comes from West Africa, specifically Nigeria. These communities actually skipped the Bronze Age entirely and went straight to iron 1,400 years before Eurasia. Iron smelting appeared independently only 3 times, making it a truly unique development. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of ignorant memes claiming that Africa's civilization has not progressed past the Stone Age. How ironic. Get it? Ironic? Back in the Near East, ironworking was mostly reserved for elite jewelry and some weapons, though it was generally too brittle. But the end of the Bronze Age forced these people to adapt, and what they developed would transform the world. Iron was everywhere, and with improved furnaces and a ton of work, they could turn a common element into deadly weapons. Early iron weapons were made with wrought iron, which is only about half as hard as bronze. It would take centuries of trial and error to create durable iron and eventually steel. Eventually, steel weapons became 2 to 3 times harder than the best bronze weapons. This allowed smiths to make much longer and thinner blades. While the spear dominated warfare throughout most Iron Age armies, iron allowed swords to become much cheaper and more practical. Famously, the Romans would create a new style of warfare relying on short swords called the gladius, the deadliest weapon of the Iron Age. In close quarters combat, it was thrust into enemies, while its bulky design also made it excellent for hacking and slashing. With this sword, and a whole lot of discipline, the Romans conquered their entire known world. While there is certainly plenty of deadly Iron Age weapons, the practicality and efficiency of the gladius is something to marvel over. I'm going to put this weapon to the test on this skull.
First, we're just going to start with a close-range stab. Really quite a good stab. Right into his eye socket. All right, now we're going for the slash. Let's just say I lost my shield, so we're using both hands. He's definitely dead, but we're gonna do another shot just to make sure. I really just kind of scalped him, look at that. That was a brutal cut, but it shows you just how tough these ballistics gel heads really are.
The next major advancement in weapons technology was the invention of firearms. Alchemists in China in search of an immortality potion accidentally created an explosive substance. By combining relatively simple ingredients, they had just created a technological revolution. Invented in the year 850 AD, it would take 2 centuries for the development of practical weaponry. At first, gunpowder bundles were attached to lances to spray toxic fire in the faces of enemies during a charge. Eventually, metal pellets and rocks were added to create a primitive shotgun and flamethrower-like device. The wooden barrel was later changed into a metal tube to better contain and direct the explosion, creating the world's first gun in 1288. In only decades, this technology had spread all over Asia, even into Europe. These firearms, called handguns, were essentially just small cannons on a stick. While simple, they were quite powerful and psychologically terrifying. As the technology improved, they could penetrate clean through even the best steel plate armor, fundamentally changing warfare. But these matchlit firearms could still be made worthless by a little bit of rain. It wasn't until the early 1600s that the deadliest weapon of the age was invented, the flintlock. Flintlocks allowed these weapons to be much more reliable and simpler to use. A piece of flint was placed in the lock and when released, scraped against the steel, spewing sparks into the chamber and shooting the projectile. Ironically, humanity once again relied on flint for its killing. From the beaver trappers of the Wild West to Napoleon's Grande Armée, the flintlock was everywhere. Let's test this weapon against a ballistics gel skull. Absolutely devastating. I mean, obviously guns are powerful, but man, comparing it to the other weapons just shows you how deadly guns really are. And look at this, I even found the bullet lodged in the brain. Firearms were a profound shift from the technology of the past. No greater change has there been in warfare other than the first humans learning to use a spear thrower. The power, the range, the accuracy, it made firearms unparalleled compared to any other weapons of their time. Colonial empires used these overpowered tools to subjugate and exploit all who did not possess the capacity to resist. But don't forget Little Bighorn. Humans have killed each other with every weapon imaginable for millions of years. What weapon do you think was the deadliest of each era? Don't forget to check out Anti-Gravity to get a sweet drone. Seriously, this is the perfect drone for beginners or anyone looking to get some great footage from above. And check out this video about the obsidian sword of the Aztecs, the Maquawik. I tested against armor, ballistics gel, and even pig ribs. Go check it out, and subscribe.